Hello all, welcome back to the channel. As you know, it's been a long time since I last gave an update on the birds, so I have so much to share with you today. And because of that, the video today is much longer than usually. Of course, we will spend much time in the outdoor aviary, giving a status on all the many finches and softbills in there. But of course, we will also take a look in the chicken aviary, where we had the cockatoos, starlings, budgies, lovebirds, etc. All in all, you will see at least 35 different species. In this video, I will also cover several of the questions I gotten from you viewers during the last half year. As you will see, many of the birds have been breeding. I've had many eggs and many chicks, but actually this breeding season has been quite strange. Later in the video, we will take a look at some of the birds that are breeding right now, but the breeding season started very strong in the early spring. Concerning softbills, that meant that the chicks arrived as early as March and April this year, and during spring and the early summer, I was lucky to have chicks from the Sudan golden sparrows, the bearded reedlings, and the Peking robins. We will come back to these later on. In this period, I provided the birds with many insects and a lot of fresh fruit. This, together with the longer days and the temperature slowly getting higher and higher, led to many of the finches and the remaining softbills getting into breeding condition. They began their different courtship rituals, and they began to build nests and also laying eggs. Unfortunately, this period with warm weather was followed by very cold Danish weather with lots of rain. And to make it all even worse, I was in between jobs, and for that reason I didn't have enough time to spend on the birds. I didn't have the opportunity to provide fresh insects for the birds regularly as I used to, at least 2 or 3 times a day. And to put it simply, my focus was elsewhere during the high time of the breeding. So probably due to the combination of a rapid change in the weather, as well as my poor feeding the birds in this time, many of the species simply stopped breeding. So the breeding of this year have been very different from what it used to be. Some of the species won't begin to breed again this year, but many of the finches from Australia or Africa have actually begun breeding now in the late autumn. But even though I'm happy that these birds finally begin to breed, it also causes some frustrations as the weather is actually getting more autumn-like now, and eventually the winter will come. I keep my fingers crossed and hope that I will see a lot of breeding before I have to move the birds indoor. Nevertheless, I know for sure that I will not have chicks from the white-eared bulbul, as I only have this male. And actually it's quite an old male, as you can see on his feathers. I've been very lucky to breed this bird before, so I hope I will soon be able to find a new female for him and see if he can still breed, even though he's getting quite old now. Sometimes the species fight with the Peking robins about territories, but I've not seen any problems towards chicks or eggs from other birds. But I've said it before, the problem having some of these species that are more or less rare is that sometimes you end up having only one bird without the opportunity to breed them. A bird species that's quite normal and easy to find is the Java sparrow, which I nevertheless had never tried to keep only 1 year ago. At that time I got 2 pairs from one of our viewers, and they have been breeding, both of them, rapidly ever since. I've probably been lucky to have more than 20 chicks during the last year, so I need to sell some of these when I catch the birds during this fall. As with the zebra finch, this species is also known to be quite aggressive towards other birds' nests and ruin other birds' attempts to breed. But providing lots and lots of nests and much space, this is a problem I have not experienced in my outdoor aviary. Another new species for me is this bronze mannequin I was very lucky to breed this first year. Only 1 month ago they provided these 2 little chicks, which are doing great still. I keep 4 double-barred finches in the outdoor aviary. They didn't do anything all summer, probably due to the reasons I explained before. But finally, this autumn, they have begun building nests, and now at least one pair is on eggs. The double-barred finch is also known as the owl finch for obvious reasons. It's quite a small bird on 10 to 11 centimeters, which originates from Australia like many of the other birds I got. Another of the small birds I got is the red-browed finch. It actually has the same length as the owl finch, but it seems much smaller when it moves around in the aviary, probably because it's not as fluffy in the feathers as the owl finches are. Today I have 2 males and 1 female of the red-browed finch. They haven't done anything this year besides fooling around and enjoying the summer. But luckily there's no problem between the pair and the single male I got in the aviary. A quite larger birds I have in the aviary, which I really like, which you can see on the many videos I've put out of it, is the Peking robin. Besides the obvious that the Peking robin is really a very well-looking bird, it also has an incredible voice, and the beautiful bird song you can hear most of the days for periods during the spring and the early summer. Despite having more pairs of this bird in the aviary and previously having success with breeding them at the same time, this year I only got 2 chicks on stag and 1 chick that died. So 2 out of 3 in one attempt. That's quite poor for so many adult birds, but probably due to the weather and the bad feeding, as I've been telling many times. The Peking robin is what is known as a softbill, not because the bill is soft, but because the food it eats is mostly soft and not seeds. The robin actually feeds partly on seeds, but its main diet is fruit and large amount of insects, especially during the breeding season. Having said that, the Peking robin is actually one of the more easy softbills to feed and take care of because it also can feed on seeds. So it's one of the softbills I prefer for new beginners within that kind of birds. And further, the robin is one of the birds in the aviary that actually get quite tame and approach you when you enter. They can quickly learn to take food from your hand, and in general they just approach you and are not afraid of humans if given the right condition. Looking back at the group of finches, the parrot finch family is one of the groups I've actually have good success with this year, but also now in the autumn. Both the red-throated and the red-eared parrot finches have begun breeding again outdoor. But even though the parrot finches are fantastic looking birds with lots of colors, nothing at all compares with the Gouldian finch. This fantastic little gold creature is one of the most well-known in the avian hobby. Already from the hand of the nature, this little bird comes in 3 different head colors: the red, the black and the orange. But in the avian culture, it has been bred in many different mutations, including a white breast, the yellow back and the blue back, and more is coming, like the silver. Beautiful birds, but I most prefer the natural color as this one. This year I've been extremely blessed with some very good breeding pairs, both in the outdoor aviary, but especially during the winter and the early spring indoor, where I had several pairs breeding again and again. So I ended up with lots of beautiful chicks, as you can see here. And it's worth pointing out that all these breedings have taken place without the use of fosters as the society finches, meaning that the Gouldian finch pair have handled, reared their own chicks without any problems at all. Some places the Gouldian finch has a reputation as being a bad parent, and consequently fosters are used for raising the birds. The reputation is somewhat true, but the reason is that if you continue to breed on birds that doesn't know how to rear their own chicks, then you get chicks that doesn't know how to rear their own chicks when they become adults. You need to stop using the bad birds and breed on the birds who actually know how to reproduce themselves. I fully support the use of foster families when you have birds that's very rare or simply make diff problems. But the continued use of foster birds on birds that we actually have a large population of in the aviary culture is not good. At least not in my opinion. But as I said, I fully support the use when there's a reason for it besides earning money. Whereas the Gouldian finch originates from Australia, The tarago bird and the family of taragos originates from Africa. The white-cheeked tarago is one of the mid-sized birds in this family. It measures around 43 centimeters, making it by far the largest bird I keep in my large aviary. It is also one of the more hardy species, which I keep outdoor all year round, and even in snow and frost, it chooses to sit out on the branches in the open part of the aviary. Like the Peking robin, the white-cheeked tarago is also a softbill, meaning it eats lots of fresh fruit, but also leaves. And all year round, and especially in the spring, it nips off the leaves from the plants in the aviary. So if it wasn't this large, the aviary, I would have huge problems with them tearing down the plants. But it goes okay because of the sizes of this aviary, but also because I keep providing lots of fresh fruit and plants for them, so they can get their basic foods from the dishes and not from the trees in the aviary. This bird doesn't eat seeds at all, but they do take some insects, especially during the breeding time. But year round, the main food is fruits and also supplements in the form of bird pellets. Especially with softbills, I'm a huge supporter of the use of pellets, as it really makes the feeding much more simple for the birdman or the keeper, instead of having to provide a lot of different fruit all year round, which can be quite costly, but also hard to get all year round. But the main food is still food, only supplemented by the pellets. I also use pellets for my cockatoos, the Major Mitchell cockatoos, and they love it very much, and sometimes they even prefer the pellets before seeds, so that's a very good sign. Also, I'm trying to introduce pellets for my budgies, canary birds and finches, but it's a long process and still they haven't gotten used to it, so they prefer the normal seeds. Each year I get more and more chicks of these great birds, the yellow-crowned bishops. It's the male you see in the black and yellow, but it's only during the breeding season the males have this wonderful color. The rest of the year they are, like the females, a more brownish color, like a sparrow, but nevertheless still a wonderful and very interesting bird to keep in an aviary during all year. Each male prefers to have 1 to 3 females, or even more, so they have a small harem and build lots of nests in the bushes for the females to choose. And only if a female have chosen one of the nests, the female and the male will finish this nest, so it's completely closed. Whereas if it's not being chosen by a female, the male will start to tear it down again. Like most of the weaver birds, the yellow-crowned bishop takes lots and lots of insects and also plants during the breeding season, whereas the rest of the year they prefer seeds and can be kept on a quite simple diet. Even though this species can be kept in a community bird aviary, as I do, it is important that you provide some more quiet places in the aviary where the females can lay on their eggs in the nest made by the male, because they need some quietness around the nest, otherwise they would simply leave the chicks or not even start incubating the eggs. In my aviary, this species always prefer to build the nest out of cocoa fibers, whereas some of the other weaver species prefer much larger leaves to build off. As you can see on this video, we will not change the bird species for a brief detour to the aviary with the chickens, cockatoos, budgies, some softbills and lovebirds. In this aviary, I also keep several lovebirds, cockatoos and budgies I received from some of our viewers. As shown before, this included some black-cheeked lovebirds, where I got 3 chicks, which had their feathers ruined by their parents in the nest. Luckily, the feathers are growing fine, and 2 of the 3 chicks have already been placed in the large aviary together with their parents again, and they are really doing very well. Looking at the budgies, I've been very lucky to breed a lot of chicks of them, besides receiving new birds. So I have quite a huge flock in wonderful different colors, really making a spectacle in the entire aviary. When you are lucky to have enough space to keep budgies like this, it becomes very apparent that the budgies is a species of flock bird. It is not meant to be kept alone unless you have very much time to be with all the time. Both during day, night, breeding and outside of breeding, they keep closely together with their flock and their mates all the time. Really fantastic to follow. In this aviary, I also keep my pair of Cockatoos, and you may have noticed that I haven't given you lots of updates on those during the summer. During the spring, my pair behaved wonderfully, went into the nest box and showed good signs all the spring that they perhaps would begin to breed. But unfortunately, I lost my female only a few months back. So what you see here is a new female being introduced to the male, and from the first moment they bonded, so that was a very good sign. These birds are extremely rare, so I was extremely lucky to have a nearby friend who are breeding these. And fortunately for me, he got a female chick he was able to sell me. So thank you very much for that. And now I cross fingers that this pair within few years will try to breed. Even though it sounds a bit funny, my previous female actually was very bad at eating in a good way. She stuffed herself way too fast, and what happened was that she simply mis-swallowed what I think was a nut and suffocated from it within half an hour. So extremely sad to watch, but luckily the new female doesn't show these signs. But we are going back to the large Finch and softbills area, where I have much more news and stories to tell. One being the Sudan golden sparrow, where he can see the wonderful yellow male, which is also a great songbird. Just like the weaver birds, this species prefer to live in large flocks, but they also build a nest together in large flock. Here you see the female, and here you have a young fledgling, fledged the nest only a few days ago. The species is quite easy to keep on seeds and different soft foods, some fruit, but during breeding, lots of insects as well. For breeding, I advise to give the birds a large aviary, as they are not very fond of being close to humans. They like to keep their distance, and especially when breeding, they are even more nervous and leave the nest with the first sight of humans. So a large aviary, otherwise I don't think you will succeed. They do tend to defend their territory around the nest towards other birds with the same yellow color. So especially the yellow-crowned bishop sometimes is chased by the Sudan golden sparrow, but only for a few seconds, and then everything is calm and peaceful again. And especially the question of which bird species can you keep together is a question I receive quite a lot. And it is both a hard question, but also very interesting. And to say it frankly, this is a question of learning by doing, but at the same time making sure you don't risk the birds' well-being or their lives by putting them in a cage where they're killed by other birds. So what I do is to research a lot before even buying birds, to make sure that the bird's nature is something I see together with the other birds I already have. The research is done in books and online, but mostly, if possible, by talking to other breeders about how they have seen these birds behave in flocks with other birds. You also need to be aware of the colors, and if a particular bird species is very aggressive towards other birds of the same color, even though not the same species. But if you do all this, it's actually possible to keep many different species together with very little issues at all. And most of the birds are just thriving all day, enjoying life, as you can see here, without being attacked or chased by anyone else. So it's just a lot of fun to watch. But take care, and each time you put a new species into your aviary, make sure to watch them very closely for the first days to make sure that they can actually function well with the species you already have. And also make sure not to put new birds in an aviary where most of the birds are breeding, as they in this period tend to be more aggressive towards new birds who doesn't know which territories to keep away from. Then you can go for different species that don't use the same parts of the aviary. Some birds keep mostly on ground in the middle on the top of the aviary, and if you go for different bird species using different parts of the aviary, just as in an aquarium, you will have more success with the community bird aviary. Having researched all the questions, one of my new birds this year was this wonderful little pigeon, a dove, which really blends in with the rest of the birds, but still has another behavior than most of the birds, spending lots of time on the ground. So it's really a fun addition to the birds. They already tried to breed this year, but unfortunately the eggs were blank, and I don't think they will try again this fall. So hopefully next year I will succeed breeding them. I have been told that they can be in the outdoor aviary all year, so that's the plan with them. Only problem I had when introducing those to the aviary was the turaco birds being aggressive towards them. Or actually not aggressive, but just very curious and going way too close to them the first day, because the pigeons or the doves were behaving a bit strangely in the mind of the turacos. But within few hours or days, there was no problem at all. And the pigeons also got used to the turacos going close to look and stopped being scared of the big birds approaching them. A larger softbill I had in this area for many years is the northern cardinal, a wonderful songbird as well, and especially the male's colors are simply great and fantastic. I keep them outdoor round the year without any problems at all. Unfortunately, I lost a female in the spring and got a new female, but this pair haven't done anything the entire year besides just going around and having a good time. But I've bred them several times before, so hopefully next spring this pair will breed. My other pair of cardinals, the red-crested cardinals in the same aviary, have been trying for some time and finally succeeded with raising one chick this year as they did last year. So not many chicks, but at least they succeed with at least one chick each year. Another species that's much more easy to breed is the zebra finch, which I really love and adore. It's sometimes being underestimated, in my opinion, just because it's easy to breed, but that's a shame because the species is really a very cute and very good looking bird. As it is easy to breed, I slowly am building up a huge flock in the large aviary, and I think there are now too many. So probably during the fall, I'll need to sell off perhaps 2/3 of these birds. Otherwise, they will take over the aviary and disturb the other birds too much. But while the numbers are not too great, I don't see any problems between the zebra finches and my other birds. It's just a matter of giving them enough space and enough nesting opportunities, also for the species that needs more calm and quietness and doesn't want to be interrupted by the zebra finches going into their nests. As you may notice, my zebra finches is of the XL, also known as the jumbo species, which means they are actually roughly double the size of the normal zebra finches. Besides the small dove I showed you previously, I also keep this much larger dove, the Luzon bleeding heart, which got the name because of the big red markings it has on its chest, which really sometimes looks like the bird is bleeding. And I've many times had to tell some of viewers or people coming by my aviaries that this bird is very fine and it's not real blood. I've bred them before, and also this year they have tried to breed many times, but something's not working. Either the eggs are blank or they keep pulling the eggs down because the nest structure is too weak. So I've tried different nest setups for them, and sometimes it works, and they actually incubate on the eggs, but the eggs are blank. So still figuring out what to do next year so I don't end up with the same failures. Perhaps I need to remove one or two of the birds and introduce new ones to make this work, but I don't know yet, so still thinking, and I love to hear if you have any good ideas. And as always, I always appreciate hearing from you, both with comments or good or bad views on the videos. If you have any ideas, suggestions, questions, or whatever you want me to take in the videos, I'd love to hear it. Also, if you have some views on the birds I've chosen in the aviaries, both with the chickens and the large ones with all the softbills and the finches, please let me know. I love to hear if you have good ideas for the breeding of the birds, or if you think I'm doing something wrong, because what I want to is having this channel working as a hub for information on all our aviary birds. And you actually asked me to provide some information on the long-tailed finches, also known as sharp-tailed finches, which I also keep in my community bird aviary. I have, I guess right now, 3 pairs, but just as most of the birds, their breeding season was interrupted by the bad weather early this year. So they haven't been doing anything until now, but just now they actually begin to build a nest, so perhaps they will start breeding now. But I'm really thinking about moving them indoor rapidly, so the outdoor breeding won't be interrupted by the winter or the colder weather which we now have. Having said that, I really see the long-tailed finches as one of the more hardy species and more easy to breed species. So it's really a bird I can recommend for new bird keepers who wants to try breeding some birds and perhaps are ready to take the next step after canary birds, budgies, and or zebra finches. The long-tailed finches is a common bird in the wild in Australia, living in the northern parts of Australia. And in the Avian culture, it is also a very common bird, which breeds easily. Though you need to be able to provide a larger cage or small aviary for these birds to breed, whereas the zebra finches and the society finches can breed in smaller cages. Still being an easy species to breed, it tends to have higher demands for the food and nutrition than the more easy birds. So you need to provide green, vegetables, fruits during breeding especially, and also some nutrition from insects or egg food. Otherwise, it is quite easy. Actually, the largest problem can be to find as the male and female birds look alike. If you have kept the long-tailed finches and have found a way to distinguish the male and the females from each other, please share your thoughts on this in the comment section below. Such information would be much appreciated by me and many others. The Dubowski Twinspot you see here is a species where you can actually tell the difference of the sexes just by looking at the birds. Even though they look quite alike, you can clearly see that the spots on the male are more clear and the red color on his back are much more red than on the female. This year is the first year I have kept the species, but it seems to be working very well. It's a fun bird. It is very calm and approaches you, so doesn't flee away from humans. The pair have built a nest, and to my knowledge, they have been incubating eggs for the last couple of weeks, so probably they will have small chicks in the nest right now, unless the eggs are blank. So I'd love to keep you updated on this in a later video. As you may have noticed throughout this video, I keep a flock of goldfinches, Cardinals, and a large community bird aviary. They have been breeding indoor in single pair cages in the spring, and now they are only out here to relax get good condition, a good well-being before going indoor and breed in cages again for the next spring. The Siberian goldfinch, also known as the major goldfinch, is a quite large bird, which is also very hardy, and it should be able to be in the outdoor aviary year-round, also when you have tough winters. But I still haven't decided what I will do this year, if I will let them be in the outdoor aviary during winter or bring them in to make them ready for the breeding in the spring. Besides looking wonderful, the goldfinch is also a fantastic singer, and as it's also very hardy, it is a bird I really can recommend other people to keep, also in community bird aviaries. But you need to be aware it can be quite tough on trees or bushes you want to grow in your aviary. In one of my videos from the late fall of 22, I visited Daoud, who is a great breeder of these birds. I plan to visit him again this weekend, so hopefully within short time I can show you a new video showing the update of his breeding. It seems he had a fantastic season with lots new chicks of the goldfinches. He keeps lots of different mutations of the goldfinch, and hopefully I can buy some new birds to try new mutations when breeding the wonderful Siberian goldfinch. So all in all, as you can see, always lots of things is going on, both outdoor and indoor, both summer and winter. And when closing down for this breeding season outdoor, the breeding season indoor for many of the finches, especially the Gouldian finches, will begin shortly, which I will show you in coming updates. I really hope you liked this longer version of a status update on the breeding and keeping of aviary birds. As always, please let me know if you have any comments or questions. And I will stop talking now so you can enjoy the beautiful sounds of the birds and the pictures of the birds for the rest of this video. I really hope you liked the video. Take care. Bye bye.